So now let me invite Dr. Eddy Setia, M.Ed. TSP, to present his presentation. Time is yours, sir.
Okay, good morning, everybody. And thank you very much for this occasion and giving me a chance to talk about humor. But I would like to share my screen first. Okay, so because I'm a linguist, I would like to see what is inside of the humor text. Okay, so I would like to talk, this morning I would like to talk about the language of humor. It is from a linguistic investigation. Since humor is a kind of text or narrative text, some kind of text, and it is used language, so linguistics can play a big role in the investigating what is inside of this text, especially. So I would like to talk about humor from the side of the use of language inside of the text. It is from linguistic investigation. Since I am, as a linguist, I would like to see whether what happened linguistically consists in the text. As I said that humor is a kind of narrative text, and we would like to try to investigate any structure related to the text or the senses used in a humor especially. But before we start with the analysis or the investigation, I would like to see definitions. What is humor actually? Yeah, as Prof. Anne explained just now, humor is used in teaching, and I also use humor in my teaching to the students in order to, what we call, to break a cold situation among the students and the teacher. So sometimes I put or give them a kind of humor in order to make their thinking becomes fresh, for example. Now, I quote some definition from some expert. They said that humor is something that invites love, and it has become the heart of research in some various disciplines due to the fact that the ability to perceive and produce humor belongs to human trait. It is, as Prof. Anna said, it is difficult actually to create, okay, to create humor if you have no what we call ability in designing or in thinking about whatever that we are going to say to the other people. Now, this ability develops through time to culture. To be able to perceive and produce humor, understanding context and schemata is inevitably needed. So creating humor needs ability. It's not only in the use of the language, but at least the way of thinking, the experience, the knowledge. Because the more knowledge that we have, it is difficult to create, it is easy to create humor in our conversation with our friends or our students. Now, humor as, wait a minute, it is hard to move, I think. Okay. Wait a minute. Yeah, humor as a human-specific attribute plays an important role in human communication. In addition to tremendous help for human social success, humor also has positive and far-reaching effects on human psychology and physical health. It is taken from Martineau, 1972, Craig, Lynn, Lefcourt, and Martin. Okay, so it is the quotation from that book. And then the psychologists, linguists, and anthropologists, and even the other experts have taken humor to be an all-encompassing category conveying an event or object that elicits laughter, amuses, or is felt to be funny. And it is also taken from Ruskin, for example. He said he proposes to consider humor in the least restricted sense. The psychology, as at the beginning of my speech, utilizes humor to reveal stress. So it means that we can cure patient or whoever that they have problems in their life, especially related to psychological health, for example. We can use humor in order to bring the sentences. So these all kind of items or linguistic features inside of the text can be investigated from linguistic point of view. So linguistic investigates humor based on linguistic units in producing and analyzing humor. And semiotics uses humor to reveal the message carried by signs and humorous texts. It is taken from Bergson, clearly considers that laughter and humor to be interchangeable, as can be seen from the complete title of his 1901 book, Laughter, essay about the meaning of humor, and so does Freud. So it is taken from years ago. One common criterion seems to underlie the working definitions of humor implicitly and sometimes explicitly laughter. The assumption behind these identifications of humor and laughter is that what makes people laugh is humorous, and hence the property is incorrectly seen as symmetrical. What is funny makes you laugh, and what makes you laugh is funny. So the funny can produce laugh. People laugh, it is because of something funny. This leads to identification of mental phenomenon, humor, with a complex neuro physiological manifestation, laughter. Laughter is the best medicine, but if you laugh for no reasons, you need medicine. Yeah, so, as I said to you just now, psychologically, laughter is needed by people in order to make or to create another ways of what do you call it? Thinking deeply about one problems, and then we can break. It's something like breaking ice or breaking stone with humor or jokes to make them laugh. Yeah. Raskin defines humor as an insincere form of communications that violates at least one of Grace maxims of communications. So it is taken by Raskin. Very stylistic definitions of register. Register-based humor persists that humor occurs when there is misalignance between how an utterance is said and the actual context of the utterance. So it's taken also from Ataru, 1994. And there is also some of explanation related to humor, related to the text. And I would like to see this text from linguistic point of view. Humor investigation, if you are using linguistics in order to see the characteristics of sentence, we use syntax, for example, or the pattern of the sentences using humor with syntax. And if you are looking at the meaning of the humor, we can see from semantics and pragmatics, and also ways of using the language in every types of humor. We can use stylistics. Outside of linguistics, we have paralinguistics also. Paralinguistic, it includes, for example, here, about the extra verbal aspects of communication properties, such as the voice power, volume, the rate of speaking variations, errors, and other distortions of speech fluency, setting or level of voice, and it is and its quality also part of making or designing humor. Now, sound is very important, especially stress, intonation. Yeah, it is related to phonology. But in this speech, I would like to talk only about syntax and pragmatics, because it is impossible for us to see all of them. So it is just to invite students, or to invite us as linguists in order to investigate humor or humor tags in all of linguistic characters or linguistic characteristics. At least we can analyze syntax, we can use semantics, pragmatics, and stylistics, and also we can see, for example, the moving, okay, the sounds, the expressions of the speakers or the people who use humor by looking at the what we call by semiotics and multimodals, for example. So it is just kind of inviting us as a linguist to see or to investigate the language using humor, because there are some researches done by or did by some linguists. So I just want to show you this one of the result of research related to syntactical investigation on humor. It is taken from Liu et al. 2016. They concluded that humorous texts tend to, number one, use simple words, but with complex sentence structure. So it's based on their investigation. And maybe I believe that in different types of humor, they will have different types of what we call types of or content of the analysis in syntax, especially. Or we can analyze or investigate text of humor deeply or completely based on just say any kinds of approaches of syntax or any kinds of approaches of semantics, pragmatics, and stylistics. with different or various ways of investigating the text, especially. Now, by having this, for example, as I said to the humor can be analyzed from syntactical point of view, semantic, pragmatics, and others. Now, by looking at the result of the research given by Liu et al., the investigation, as I said to you, that texts of humor tend to use simple words but complex sentence structures. They have reasons by looking at the data saying that according to them, because that many jokes are about events in life, so that the common words are more often used, while complex and professional words are less used. And then the number two, he said that humorous texts tend to be more vivid with auxiliary adverbs, negations, and rhetoric questions. The reason for that, it is said that because humorous texts usually describe some details to let reader imagine the situations, so that auxiliary words are often used more to enhance such as description. In addition, according to them, auxiliary often related to negation. Rhetoric questions are useful to enhance the expressive of a sentence. Number three, they say that humorous texts tend to be like conversation involving more personal pronouns and questions. It is said that the reasons are humor is a result of comparing with others. As a result, it is unavoidable to mention people with pronouns, and many jokes involve dialogues between people, so that they are naturally a kind of conversation. It is the same as what the first speaker explained about the conversation of the students. And from this conversation, sometimes it is hard for us to make the transcript with ways of conversational analysis. Means that we have to make detail in order to see any kinds of linguistic items that we are going to analyze or investigate in order to make the results of the analysis will see the detail of the conversation in the humorous text, for example. Now, the linguistic analysis of humorous and creative language use provides us with a better insight in the flexibility of both semantics, categories, and the meaning systems as a whole. Now, in semantics, for example, meaning is identified as a rich conceptual structure, which in running discourse is constantly being determined by mutually coordinated by the individual participants of the interactions. A dynamic view of meaning requires the social dimensions of meaning to be included as well. Now, from the semantic point of view, from semantic field of humor, Tardo gives something like items that we have to see in order to see the whole content of humor, and he tries to see how what we call items that we use, items that involve in the humor text, yeah, um, there are some items here in order to create or at least involve in creating humor. For example, for wit here, as wit means a natural aptitude for using words and ideas in a quick and inventive way to create humor. So people or person has his own ability in doing this. It is because of he is rich of knowledge, he is rich of experience, he is rich of cultural understanding, and so on and so forth. Because by creating a humor, we need this. Okay, we need abilities in something like experience, knowledge, and others. Pun is also involved in this humor. This pun can be and have been used as evidence in linguistic research. We can see puns here for in the whole text of the humor. Bomo, it is also important. It is a kind of intelligent and funny remark because sometimes if you have the same experience, okay, if you have the same experience and we have the same knowledge, it is easy for us to design or to create any sentences or any utterances that related to can be intellectual sentences or something like what we call now if I have high experience or knowledge, for example, and I give I make a humor to a person who has what we call different level of knowledge or different level of experience. So it is hard to make communication humorously to them. So because it is hard for them to catch, okay, to catch whatever we say related to our experience and knowledge, for example. Satire is also a way for criticizing people or ideas in a humorous way, especially in order to make a political point, a piece of writing that uses this satire, especially. Now, satire can be as a humor, but sometimes it is hard also for other people to accept this kind of kinds of humor. Irony also, it is a kind of a situation in which something which was intended to have a particular result has the opposite of a very different result in here. Nonsense, an idea, something said or written or behavior that is silly or stupid in order to create the humor. In the ridicule, it is what we call unkind words, or action that makes someone or something look stupid. And different culture has different ways of telling humor. Different culture also create different ways of creating humor. In one culture, for example, stupidity can be a kind of humor. But in other culture, stupidity means satire, can be satire, in order to make people down and to make people unvaluable in social life. Okay, so it means that ridicule can be as a humor, but it is sometimes dangerous. A comic also, a comic. In comic, we can create humor. It is especially related to what we call, sometimes related to meta linguistics. Yeah. In ridicule, people create mock, yeah, mock to laugh at someone, often by copying them in a funny and unkind way. So it is also humor, but it's not polite, especially. But we can discuss this based on the pragmatics point of view and also sarcasm. So sarcasm is kind of the use of remarks that clearly mean the opposite of what they say, made in order to hurt someone's feelings or to criticize something in a humorous way. Now, ridicule is types of humor, and we can analyze this based on, as I said to you, linguistic point of view, syntax, or pragmatic sometimes. I believe that in pragmatics we can investigate humor in ridiculous form, or at least in these types of humor, and we can see about politeness and impoliteness. So sometimes politeness for one culture is not polite or impolite for another culture. It is also difficult to analyze pragmatically. Joke, yeah, joke is also part of this. But in telling jokes, because telling jokes can be in a humor, it is using the play of using words sometimes. Okay, the play of using sound, the play of using phonetics items in the sentences. It is also can be analyzed in, can be investigated in the linguistic. Tease here, to laugh at someone or say unkind things about them, either because you are joking or because you want to be upset that person. People also use humor in order to tease, in order to upset other people. Okay. So it is realized or unrealized. Sometimes we do humor, but the what do you call, the people who listen or who hear our humor feel sad sometimes. Okay, so means be careful in making humor by teasing people. Practical jokes. It is a joke that makes someone seem silly. Okay, to make some people silly and involve a physical action rather than the words. So we can see this from semiotic, so multimodal analysis related to paralinguistics, for example. Now, fun, it is also pleasure, employment, entertainment, because in practical joke, yeah, in practical jokes, make someone seem silly and involves physical action rather than the words. So we can use this the analysis from semiotics and multimodal. Now, the conclusion is humor is a kind of the ability to find things funny. Yeah, but it is be careful because we can uh, create irony, joke, pun, boomo, and so on and so forth. The way in which people see that some things are funny or the quality of being funny. And as I said to you, that different culture has different perceptions of the funny things. If we think that it is funny, but according to them, it can be not funny. Okay, so it is difficult to create actually humorous texts in order to make people laugh, because sometimes we hurt them, sometimes we in order to make them happy, but actually the result is unhappy. So it is humor. Okay. Now, from this point of view, as I said to you, that it is just a kind of invitation from me to us in order to see deeply or to investigate deeply related to the text, related to humorous text, in order to, what we call, in order to see the characteristics of or linguistic characteristics of this kind of text. And I think that's all. That's my what we call, just a brief analysis or brief explanation related to language used in humorous texts. Thank you very much, and hopefully there are some kinds of discussions that we are going to accept at the end of this presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Eddy Setia, M.Ed, TESP.